All right, man, let's talk. Let's talk about the one thing nobody seems to want to touch: sexual frustration when she's pregnant. If you're a dad-to-be and you're dealing with this, probably in silence, feeling like you can't even say a word, this is for you. We're gonna get real, we're gonna get honest, because what you're feeling, it's real. Let's dive in.
Does this just nail it for you? I mean, you look at your partner, you see everything she's going through, the sickness, the exhaustion, the way her body is changing, and you're in awe of her. But at the same time, deep down, you feel rejected, maybe even a little angry. And the guilt that comes right after that thought, oh man, it's crushing. If that sounds familiar, you're exactly where you need to be.
So first things first, and I need you to really hear this. What you are feeling is legitimate. You're not a bad guy. You're not selfish for feeling frustrated. Let's break down exactly why you are not an asshole for feeling this way.
Look, your logical brain gets it. Of course it does. You understand why sex is off the table. But there's a deeper, more primal part of you that doesn't operate on logic, and that part of you feels the sting of personal rejection. It feels like you're being pushed away, and that hurts. That's an emotional reaction, and it's completely normal.
And this is the real kicker, isn't it? She has support groups, online forums, books, friends, a whole community. And you're expected to just be the rock, the silent support system who has it all together. The minute you even hint that you're struggling, especially with something like sex, you risk getting labeled as selfish or clueless. That isolation just pours gasoline on the frustration.
And just trying to bottle all this up, it doesn't work. In fact, it can be pretty dangerous. All that pressure and stress can lead to something called paternal perinatal mood and anxiety disorders, or PPMADs. And this number right here, 1 in 10, that shows you just how common this is. We're talking about a real medical condition, not a character flaw.
Okay, now let's talk about the timeline, because this is where so many guys get completely blindsided. Setting brutally honest expectations right now is the key to not letting this turn into massive resentment later on. This is the big question, right? The one every guy is secretly thinking. Okay, once the baby is here, everything just snaps back to normal, yeah? Well, let's look at what really happens. We all hear about that 6 to 8 week green light from the doctor, but let's be clear, that's just a medical checkup to see if her stitches have healed. It has almost nothing to do with desire or exhaustion or hormones. The reality is that only about a third of couples are back at it by then. For most people, you're looking at 3 months or honestly, a lot longer. So let's just do the simple math. You've got 9 months of pregnancy. Then you've got at least 18 months of what they call postpartum adjustment. That's a nice way of saying physical healing, wild hormone swings, and a level of exhaustion you didn't know was humanly possible. All in, you're looking at a 2+ year window where your sex life is probably going to be scarce. This isn't to scare you, it's to prepare you. This is a marathon, my friend, not a sprint.
Okay, so we've established that the problem is real and the timeline is long. Now for the most important part, what can you actually do about it? Let's get into the practical playbook. Here's the game plan. We're going to break down these 4 points. This is all about managing your own needs in a healthy, mature way that protects you and your relationship. This isn't about just sucking it up. It's about having actual tools to deal with it.
Let's just be grown-ups about this. Masturbation is not cheating. It's not a sign you don't love her. It is a practical, healthy way to manage your physical needs so you're not putting all that pressure and tension onto your partner. Think of it like changing the oil in your car. It's just essential maintenance to keep the whole system running smoothly.
All right, point 2 is huge. You have to expand your definition of what sex is. When intercourse is off the table, outer course becomes the main event. We're talking oral, manual, mutual stuff, and it's not a consolation prize. The absolute key here is to shift your focus intensely onto her pleasure. When you make her feel good, when she feels desired and cared for, you get that feeling of connection and desirability back. It's a win-win. And of course, experiment with what's comfortable for her. And remember that lube is your best friend.
Okay, this is probably the trickiest part of the whole thing. How do you bring this up? How do you talk about what you need without making her feel pressured or guilty or defensive? It all comes down to one single critical change in how you frame it. This right here, this is everything. The phrase, "I need sex," lands like a demand. It puts her on the spot to perform an act she may not be physically or emotionally capable of. But "I need to feel connected to you," well, that's completely different. That's you being vulnerable. That's you sharing an emotional need, not demanding a physical act. It opens a conversation instead of starting an argument.
So here's how that looks in the real world. Instead of saying something that sounds like an accusation, like, "we never have sex anymore,"
You use an I statement. Try something like, hey, I've been feeling a little disconnected from you lately, and I miss you. See the difference? You're talking about your feelings. Nobody can argue with how you feel. It invites her in instead of pushing her away.
Now we have to talk about a really important line in the sand. There's a huge difference between feeling temporary frustration and letting it curdle into toxic resentment that can poison your relationship for years to come.
This is the distinction you have to understand. Frustration is normal. It's a feeling that comes and goes. But resentment, that's different. Resentment is what happens when that frustration gets ignored over and over again. It settles into your bones, it festers, and pretty soon it becomes the lens you see your entire relationship through. So how do you know if you're crossing that line? These are the warning lights on your relationship dashboard. You stop cuddling or holding hands. Every conversation is just logistics. Who's picking up what? Who's handling which chore? You find yourself being critical or sarcastic. Or there's just this low-level hum of anger all the time. If you see these signs, you need to pay attention.
This one's also critical. Are you being a patient partner, or are you just becoming a doormat? Healthy patience is a choice you both make. It's a temporary thing. Unhealthy sacrifice is when it's always one way. Your needs are always last, always ignored, to the point where you start to disappear. If every compromise feels like you're the only one giving something up, that's a major red flag that the balance is way off.
All right, let's bring this home. How do you actively build and maintain that connection when sex is off the menu? And just as important, when is it time to raise your hand and get some professional help? Intimacy is so much bigger than intercourse. It's all this stuff. A foot rub after a long day, just cuddling on the couch watching a dumb movie, holding hands when you go for a walk. All these little things release oxytocin. It's literally the bonding hormone. This is the glue. You have to intentionally make time for this, even if it feels forced at first. This is what will hold you two together. And finally, let's circle back to that 1 in 10 number. If you're looking at this list and it's hitting a little too close to home, if you're constantly anxious, snapping at everyone, or just pulling away from the people you love, it might be more than just frustration. It could be PPMADs. And listen, getting help is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength. It's the most responsible thing you can do for yourself and for your new family.
So let's end with this. This whole period is tough. There's no doubt about it. But the goal isn't just to survive it with gritted teeth. The real challenge and the real opportunity is to figure out how you can use this incredibly difficult time to forge an even stronger, more resilient connection for the massive journey you have ahead of you. Your feelings are valid. What you choose to do with them, well, that's going to define everything.